These are the 3D VIEW-MASTER pictures of Finland. Of the 4 Scandinavian countries, Finland is without a doubt the most mysterious in the eyes of the foreigner. Mysterious in its origin for a start. It was only in the Middle Ages that Finland rose up from the Nordic mists. Of the nature of the Finns, their origins, their customs before the year 1000, very little is known to us. The scholars can only surmise, issued from the cradle of the Finno-Ugric peoples between the Ural Mountains and the Volga, where the Hungarians also came from. The ancestors of the Finns settled on the shores of what is now Finland at the beginning of our era. Then, moving towards the north, they drove back, little by little, the original inhabitants, the Lapps or Lapplanders. From the 11th century, the Vikings, coming from the west, settled in the islands near the coasts. In 1155, Erik the Seventh's crusade opened the way for the Swedish wars of conquest. But on the Russian side, the princes of Novgorod grew restless. Coveted by her 2 great neighbors, her nobility crushed by Charles XI in the second half of the 16th century, her population decimated by plague, famine, and the Russians from 1713 to 1721. Finland became like a great battlefield. The masters succeeded one another, for better or for worse, but on the whole, fairly oblivious of Finnish particularism. After those of Charles XII, the last Swedish venture led by Gustav III against Russia ended up in defeat. For Sweden and Finland, it meant separation after 6 centuries of the same fate. But the national feeling that had woken up during the Swedish domination went on developing during the 19th century in spite of Russian domination. The newly awakened Finnish consciousness led up to the struggle for its independence in 1918. General Mannerheim and his Whites, helped by Germany, overthrew the soldiers of the brand new Bolshevik army. Finland, free at last, went through a swift economic and social evolution until 1939. Attacked by Russia, she was made to agree to the cutting off of some territories, in spite of courageous resistance that drew the sympathy, but nothing else of the whole world. In 1914, when Germany and Russia, who were allies, suddenly became enemies, the Finns once again found themselves on the wrong side. Again in 1944, they had to accept the terms of the USSR, surrender of the wealthy regions of Eastern Karelia, of the mining land of Petsamo, of 13% of her most fertile lands. With the addition of $300 million, 1938 value, of compensation, several hundred ships, dozens of factories, hundreds of locomotives, thousands of carriages, everything seemed to indicate that Finland would never rise again. But she rose, however, and started up the industry needed to pay up this terrifying war booty. Land of the green gold. The Finnish forest covers about 74% of the 130,000 square miles territory. As nature does things well, a huge network of lakes, more than 9,650 square miles, and rivers presents an economically cheap means of transport, 25,000 miles long. Timber rafting. So from matches to prefabricated houses, from cellulose to paper, timber constitutes the main national resource, which is complemented by metallurgy and agriculture. In such a country, a third of which lies beyond the polar region, the major part of the population has concentrated in the south. This consists of about 4,500,000 inhabitants. 90% Finnish-speaking and 10% of Swedish education, the latter to be found more particularly around Vasa and Helsinki. Finnish sisu. Let us avoid hasty glitches in trying to generalize about the character of the average Finn. Why should the Hamian not be as calm as the Ostrobothnian, as lively, or the inhabitant of Savo is talkative, as the Karelian is dreamy, just as the Breton differs from the Provençal, the Saxon from the Bavarian, and the Scotsman from the Englishman? On the whole, however, they are known to have one thing in common: sisu, a national virtue consisting of energy, which can sometimes be brutal, but also of calm tenacity, immovable obstination and courage, of which they have given countless proofs in saving their originality and culture during 9 centuries of occupation. Their calm and reserve do not prevent them from being hospitable, generous, even friendly to the foreigner. Their very nature draws them to optimism and even to a certain casualness and to a taste for improvisation, which is unexpected amongst peoples who have had to fight against adversity too many times. VIEW-MASTER Reel 1. Picture 1. Helsinki was founded in 1550 by the King of Sweden, Gustav Vasa, then master of Finland's fate. The sovereign wanted to found there a port which was to be a rival to the Hanseatic League. The city, as it developed, did not live up to his expectations, and 20 years later it still numbered 500 inhabitants. It was then moved 2.5 miles away to where its present position is. Helsinki only became the capital in 1812, when it took the position over from Turku. Since then, the port and the city have been growing steadily. Built on a peninsula, it welcomes right in its very heart the liners, whose passengers land a few yards only from the main shopping streets. Picture 2. The Olympic Stadium was built in 1938 for the 12th Olympic Games, which were to take place in 1940 in the Finnish capital. It was not until 1952 that the Olympic Games took place there. The 236 feet high tower rises above the steps, built for 60,000 people. In the foreground, the statue represents Paavo Nurmi, who won 24 world records from 1920 to 1930. Picture 3. Helsinki Station, a vast building made of granite and flanked by a tower, is quite a fair symbol of Finnish architecture at the beginning of this century. As it was swept several times by violent fires, Helsinki has practically no historical buildings. The oldest house in the city dates back to the middle of the 18th century. Picture 4. The folkloric costumes of the Scandinavian countries are usually extremely colorful, possibly so that their gay colors light up the grayness that drowns things and people during the long winter months. This young girl, dressed in the traditional Saksmäki costume, dreams by one of the lakes in Aulanko Park. Picture 5. Aulanko Park is a national property of 200 acres, bought by the town of Hämeenlinna. The Finnish Tourist Office has built 2 hotels, and there are, for the tourist, walks, a beach and sports grounds. Picture 6. Tampere, because of the two lakes which surround it, has become a very important industrial city. The two lakes are linked by a fast channel which provides electric energy for the 400-odd local textile and metallurgy factories. We are here on the Belvedere of Finland, a tower 100 feet high, built on a wooded hill from where there is a beautiful panorama over the town. Picture 7. The sauna is a Finnish specialty. It is not simply a heat bath, but a rite, a treatment, and no Finn can do without it. The real sauna is in the country and consists of a wooden hut. After undressing and washing, one enters a room where red-hot stones raise the temperature to 150 Fahrenheit or more. A little water thrown on the stones immediately turns to steam and raises the temperature even higher. One is then wiped with birch twigs to stimulate the circulation, and the rite ends with a plunge in the lake or, in winter, a roll in the snow. VIEW-MASTER Reel 2. Picture 8. Turku is the ancient Finnish capital, a position it held until 1812, when Tsar Alexander I, Finland was then under Russian domination, transferred the title to Helsinki, which was nearer to Russia. It was about 1229 that the town was set up on its present site at the mouth of the river Aurajoki, a position which quickly helped it to become an active commercial center. In the background, the cathedral, nucleo of the town, dating from the 13th century, a mixture of Romanesque and Gothic. It shelters the remains of the bishops of Turku. Picture 9. Turku Castle was built on high ground in order to defend the neighbor. It is thought that its construction dates back to 1280. Though it was destroyed several times, it has been rebuilt and new contains the collections of the National Historical Museum. The city, which was ravaged by a great fire in 1827, was rebuilt by the architect Engel in the same empire style which characterizes some of the districts of Helsinki. Turku is now an important commercial and industrial center, whose icebreakers ensure its constant accessibility. Picture 10. Lahti, founded in 1905, is now a town of 65,000 inhabitants and one of the best-known winter resorts in the country. The town has built a memorial to General Mannerheim, twice President of the Finnish people, in 1918. During the War of Independence, which forced the Russians out of the national territory, and from 1939 to 1944. Picture 11. Midsola Church near Kotka is a fine example of contemporary Finnish architecture. Kotka, an industrial town, is built at the mouth of the Kimoik. Timber, brought by rafts from the interior of the country, constitutes the base of the local industry. Sawmills, paper mills, cellulose factories make Kotka the first Finnish port of exportation. Picture 12. Lappland was already an important commercial center in the Middle Ages. The city, which has become a great industrial center, metallurgic and chemical industry, is built on the shore of Salmia, a lake of 700 square miles linked to the Gulf of Finland by a canal. As you can see on our photograph, the lake attracts vast numbers of water ski enthusiasts. Picture 13. Olavinlinna, the castle of Savonlinna, is built on a granite island in the middle of the sound, which links the lakes of Habavesi and Villagiavesi, belonging to the lake network of Sauna. The castle was built in the second half of the 15th century in order to guard the region of Savo against the Russian military expeditions. The fortress, many times besieged, lost and won back again, finally lost all strategic importance when Finland became Russian in 1809. Picture 14. Jyväskylä, whose foundation goes back to 1837, is an industrial town of 40,000 inhabitants, situated on the shore of Lake Jyväsjärvi. Here again timber reigns and is dealt with under all its forms by the local factories. The town, however, owes part of its reputation to the fact that it is the cradle of education in the Finnish language. 1958, indeed until then, Swedish was the sole official language in the country. VIEW-MASTER Reel 3. Picture 15. Kuopio, an ancient episcopal city, has developed under the impetus of its industry. Tourism too plays an important part in this development, for in the summer the lakes attract sailing enthusiasts, and in the winter the surrounding slopes are used by skiers. We are there on the tower of Puyo, a hill north of the town, from where there is a fine panorama over Kuopio and Lake Kallavesi. Picture 16. Vasa, founded by Charles IX in 1606, received its character 5 years later, as well as the name and coat of arms of the royal Swedish house. Situated on the Gulf of Bothnia, Vasa is the capital of Ostrobothnis, a vast and fertile province irrigated by many rivers. Folk art and craftsmanship have been carefully preserved, in particular in an open-air museum arranged in one of the town parks. Picture 17. Oulu is the last great Finnish town as you go up towards the north. In this region the density of population is 2 inhabitants per square mile. Oulu was for a long time a great producer of tar, distilled from wood. Since then it has adapted itself to the needs of the times and now produces cellulose and paper pulp. Here we see a diversion channel, such as can be found at all the difficult spots on the Finnish waterways, in order to allow the wood to drift away from rabbits of bridges. Picture 18. Rovaniemi, the capital of Lappland, is practically right in the polar area. It is a new town. It was like the whole of Lappland, burned by the Germans in 1945. Situate in the harsh setting of the north. To its activities as an administrative capital and a commercial center of wood and furskins must be added those of a tourist center. Its population, 20 to 25,000 strong, is increased in the winter by all the ski enthusiasts, and in the summer by all the travelers who are attracted by the midnight sun and the games of the timber drifters. Picture 19. Finnish Lapland is now a tourist region in full development. The crossing of the polar circle, authenticated by means of a certificate, and a family snapshot with a lap are a must. But don't worry, the laps you can see here are authentic. The features of some of them remind one of the Mongolian origin of this people, who have mixed strongly with Finnish immigrants in the course of the centuries. This family, dressed in typical costumes, is crowded together around a huge stone-faced stove, which ensures the heating on days when the temperature sometimes reaches 60 degrees below zero. Picture 20. The rivers and takes of Finland are paradise for those who consider fishing as a sport. It is in Lappland, however, that the boat catches are. The magnificent salmon in our photograph vouches for if the most amazing thing is the sight of pearl divers, who have nothing in common with those of the Indian Ocean. They do not look for oysters, but for shells, of which some may indeed conceal a pearl. Picture 21. The reindeer is the camel of Lappland. Please forgive this bad image, but this animal is certainly the providence of nomads, north of the polar circle. Of the 25,000 Lapps in Finland, less than 400 families still wander to spend the summer towards the shores of the Arctic Ocean. They depend entirely on the reindeer, a beast of burden and the basis of their nourishment, meat and milk. We want to add new videos every day, so please subscribe to our channel.
And if you had fun, thumbs up.